Hi, I'm Muhammad Arif. I'm the creator of YouTube channel Kucingku. Today, I will share with you about optimizing reproductive performance in cat3 by Dr. Kavindaran Krisnasamy from Science Communication, Royal Canin, Malaysia. Please subscribe my YouTube channel and check it out.
Before I start, let me introduce myself. My name is Kavindaran Krisnasamy. I'm, in short, it's called Kavin. I'm one of the scientific communications manager in Royal Canin, Malaysia. And my role is actually more specific towards the vet and also the professional channel, which is one of them are the breeder partners, our breeder trade partners. So today, I'm very excited to share this session with all of you because it is actually our very first webinar that we are actually doing it for our breeder trade partners. And so I hope everything goes on smoothly without any concerns. Your feedback at the end of the session is very, very valuable. So I will reach each of you all to submit an evaluation so that we can only improve from here onwards better. Okay, so now just a few house rules before we start off the session. Okay, so first thing is asking questions. I'm sure there's a lot of questions that we can discuss during this session. So, but please do channel the questions to the Q&A box instead of the chat, because I'm afraid the questions will be buried. You know, the questions akan terbendam lah in the list of chat that are coming in. So channel it into the Q&A. And towards the end, I will try my best to answer as many as possible. But I want to give a heads up because for me, I would consider this as more as a discussion. And I am not a super expert in the field of breeding cats and dogs. I'm also learning, to be honest. So I'm just sharing the information that I have available in hand. I think it's very valuable to be shared among our trade partners. So there may be questions yang saya tak ada jawapan hari ini. So, but don't worry, I will come back to you. That I can promise. Soalan-soalan yang saya tak dapat jawab hari ini, I will take it and I will definitely come back to all of you here. And do allow me to use a mixture of Malay and English. My Malay is not very good. Okay, dah karat sikit ya. But I'll try my best to incorporate a mixture of Malay and English. Tapi my slides is all in English only. But I would try to incorporate the use of Malay language together lah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. And most importantly, during the session, I will have some polls, which means you guys boleh participate. Ada soalan-soalan yang saya akan tanya. So you can actually just choose the answers. It's more to make it interactive lah, supaya tak boring sangat lah this afternoon, you know. It's after lunchtime. So I hope I can retain your attention. You guys boleh, dengar dengan saya a good, at least 1 hour, 15 minutes completely. And also most importantly, please pay attention. Why am I asking is because kita ada quiz at the end of the day. And probably some of you are familiar with Kahoot. We used to do it in our offline events, in our seminars. So this is again my first time trying it online. But so what am I requesting is some of you all may be using a personal computer to watch this webinar. Some of you all may be using a phone. But in order for you to participate in the Kahoot later, you need to actually have another device. Okay, you need to have another phone, so that you can participate lah. Sebab soalan akan keluar in your current device, tapi untuk main Kahoot, you need another phone lah. So maybe you can borrow your family member's phone ke siapa-siapa. Just keep it ready for end of the session. You don't need it now, but later when I inform, boleh lah, then we can start participating. Okay, so now let's start already. Let's not waste any more time. So as you know, what is the topic today? The topic today, I'm going to be sharing some tips and highlights on the importance of how you can actually improve the reproductive performance. Okay, kuatkan lagi the performance of kucing-kucing anda yang that you are using for pembiakan. How to improve it, how to make it more worthwhile, the effort that you're putting. Macam mana you dapat balik that return. Okay, so before that, let's look into this thing here. When you look at cats mating, kucing yang tengah mengawan, okay, of course this is not kucing, this is a lion here, but I'm just showing you all in the perspective of a cat. How complicated is it? Is it a very complicated process, or is it something very, very simple? Okay, so you guys percaya that to make for cats to have kittens, untuk membiak and then mendapat anak kucing ni, is it easy or not? So if you look at this small diagram on the left hand side here, okay, so oops, let me try to bring my cursor on. Okay, so this diagram here shows you how much of kittens can 1 litter actually produce. Okay, so because satu pasang one kucing jantan dan betina, they can give up to 3 liters per year and ranging up to 4 to 6 kittens in every litter. Okay, so you're talking about up to 12 to 16 kittens in a year, and over time those kittens can eventually produce countless number of kittens, up to 400,000 actually. And we know this issue. We know stray population, how easily they can start multiplying. It is definitely very easy. So if you look at that context, ini proses yang sangat simple lah. It is not a complicated process. Okay, but is breeding cat only about that? Okay, so do you think that obtaining kitten untuk mendapat anak kucing selepas pembiakan yang successful ni, is it more than that? Adakah dia lebih daripada ni? Okay, and so many other factors actually comes into the equation here. Okay, so of course kalau ada kucing jantan and kucing betina, you will eventually, they mate successfully, they will get kittens. Okay, but what are the other things that come into the picture here? One of it is okay, the other things that can do to improve the breeding success in your catteries, because when you talk about breeding, it's not just about male and female mixing and you get kittens. At the end of the day, it's the genetic selection and the quality of the breed that you get. As professional breeders, I always believe our ultimate goal or our ultimate purpose is to make sure we bring the best out of the breed. Kita kena keluarkan yang terbaik daripada baka yang kita tengah ada tu, because they are pure breeds and we need to make sure only the best is brought out of that breed. Okay, and it is our responsibility as a profession, and I will consider breeders as professionals here. As professionals, it's only our responsibility to make sure that we do the necessary to ensure that we can bring the best out of this. Okay, so now, and these are the factors that possibly can masuk and cause effect. Contohnya fertility, okay, kesuburan kucing tu, okay. Then you're talking about breeding practice, okay, macam mana that particular cattery is actually doing their breeding practices, okay, proses-proses pembiakan diorang. And the next thing is the environment, okay, the persekitaran of that breeding practice. How does the environment play into the role? So all of this, the fertility, the breeding practice, and the environment, it eventually affects the outcome of making sure we have a good quality. Okay, so when it comes to the parameter yang boleh menyebabkan or affect certain breeding success. So what are the parameters here? Okay, so first thing is light. Probably most of you all know what am I talking about. I will go a bit more in detail nanti but just putting out the word light here. Okay, next we have is breed, baka. So this is also one of the parameter. And next is nutrisi yang kita bagi kepada kucing jantan atau kucing betina tersebut, and also behavior, perlakuan kucing tu. So all of these are possible parameters yang boleh it affects the outcome of the breeding or the success of the breeding. So here I have a question for you all. So this is the poll that I mentioned. So basically what I will do, I will throw out this question to all of you. Sekejap lagi you all may be able to see ada soalan keluar in front of your device dalam phone. So soalannya is, what is the most important parameter in breeding success? Tadi saya ada letakkan 4 parameter. Ada light, ada breed, ada nutrition, ada behavior. So you should be able to see the parameter kat depan sekarang, and then you can just choose the answer. Okay, perfect. So I'm getting answers coming in, and I will share these answers to all of you later. Okay, now just to see what is the understanding or your opinion, as you guys are spending your time listening to me. So I just want to know your opinion in this. Okay, so I've got a few person answered already, about 70%, 70% dari tetap Azim masa. So now you see I have the answers in front of you here. So it is actually an even spread between light, breed, nutrition, and behavior. Okay, so you see some of y'all have chosen light, a bit more on breed and nutrition and behavior. So I'll answer y'all a bit later in the upcoming slide on what is this about. Now I do see some of y'all have informed that you can't see the poll. Now I've been using Zoom for a few times before this, so what I kind of feedback yang saya dapat tahu is, if the internet connection from your end is not very stable, sometimes you ada masalah untuk dapatkan poll tersebut. So maybe your internet connection is not so stable at where you are. If you're using a data, also maybe you want to move to a place where ada lagi stable connection lah. But again, this is based on previous experience of webinar. Okay, but so sorry if you can't visualize the poll. Okay, so now I'm going to proceed. So coming back to these 4 factors here, if you look at light, okay, we all do know cahaya actually will affect the cycle of kucing betina, okay, because this is due to this hormone nama dia melatonin. Okay, kalau ada banyak cahaya yang kucing itu is exposed to, okay, dia terkena banyak cahaya, and this is not necessarily kena cahaya matahari, it can also be due to artificial light, okay, cahaya lampu elektrik pun dia boleh, and this can affect the production of melatonin. Kalau ada banyak cahaya, lagi kurang keluaran melatonin dalam badan, so lagi cepat kucing tu boleh masuk cycle, they can come into heat. Okay, so the next thing is breed. Of course, sebab ada banyak jenis baka, ada baka yang they are very active when it comes to their coming on heat or coming on cycle, and also untuk kucing jantan sekali, like some breeds, the very young age at about 9-10 months or even maybe at 12 months, they are already very sexually active and sexually mature already. Tapi ada kucing yang dia kena tunggu sampai dia at least 18 bulan, or some even can go up to 24 months. Like Persians, right? Sometimes it can take very long for them to sexually mature. Now, next thing is nutrition, of course. Nutrition, we cannot run away from this, is because we want to make sure that the body, the size of the animal is adequate. Dia cukup untuk menampung anak kucing, especially dalam betina. So because why? There is a difference between sexual maturity and also puberty. Okay, kira macam kucing datang akhir balik lah, and as compared to they are sexually mature, that they are matang dalam kategori sexual dia orang. This is 2 different things actually. I'll explain to you all later. And also nutrition is also important for accumulation of certain macronutrient. Contoh satu jenis makronutrisi ialah lemak, fat. Okay, because fat is actually one of the most crucial macronutrient, especially untuk kucing yang mengandung, that are having the gestation, yang during the 2 months is actually extremely important in kucing and also in anjing. Okay, and the next thing is behavior, because this one really affects how successful is the entire breeding career. Later I will share with you all more in detail. All right, so but what I want to point out here, the first thing is, all of this can be a parameter, and it actually differs according category to categories, which means there's now the question I asked you, yang mana lagi penting kan? Is it light, is it breed, is it nutrition, is it behavior? There's no one correct answer actually. Dia memang bergantung pada category, because some categories, they need more light dependent, or maybe depending on the location. Because for us, we are in a tropical country, masalah problem due to light is not a main concern. But countries where they have got seasons, during the winter season and autumn season, there's not much light. Okay, during day, hari siang is sangat kurang banding dengan hari malam kan. So what happens is the cats are normally not active. Usually during spring and summer is when they are sexually active. But in our case, that is not a concern. You see. So again, some breeds are, some breeds are not. Nutrition also depends on the type of food, and also behavior depending on the environment yang kita kena jaga. So my main point is, all of these are important, but which is most important, it really depends on the respective case to case or the respective category. Okay, so now let's go into the immediate tips or the immediate things that I want to share with all of you already. So we start with some questions here. For example, when do you start breeding? Untuk kucing kan, bila kita mula guna kucing untuk pembiakan. Okay, when is it ideal? When is it okay for us to start using it? So the question is, at what age do we start breeding a queen specific to kucing betina? Okay, and what age do you start breeding a tom or a stud untuk kucing jantan lah? Alright. So the answer here in simple is, we don't want to do it too early and we don't want to do it too late. I will go a bit detail of what I mean by too early and too late. I see some of you are already sharing some answers in the chat. That's really lovely. It's already being very interactive, but it's good. It's good to us to have a good sharing session here. So I will go by some cases here. Okay, so I've got a case. This is a real case here. Okay, it's not handled by me, but it is a case shared by some other professionals. So the first case, okay, it's a 7-month-old kitten and it came in with difficulties to birth. They came and visited the clinic lah, the doctor veteriner. Masalah dia tak boleh nak keluarkan anak kucing. It is in labor tapi tak boleh nak keluarkan. And so they tried medical management because there are certain medications that kita boleh bagi untuk pastikan kucing tu dia boleh deliver successfully lah. Some of you guys might have been familiar with it also. It's called oxytocin, yeah. But couldn't. There was poor response. Did not have sufficient outcome from the medication option. So the vet decided to go in for a C-section, and they did the surgery. Everything went well. Okay, the 2 kittens were successfully delivered from the C-section, and the cat also. I mean the queen, who is still a kitten by the way, was healthy even after the surgery. She well recovered and all was good. But what is the key element here? Her age. At 7 months of age, okay? That is one of the key highlights we see here. So what was the risk actually? We do know, yes, cats below, at certain month of age is not ideal to be used for reproduction or untuk breeding. But what's with it actually? What is the reason? What is it behind it? First thing is the structure, okay? Physically, they are not mature enough. Okay, rangka badan anak kucing ni, dia tak besar lagi. Although they have already reached puberty, okay? They can produce ova, okay, oocyte, which is the fertilizable egg, yeah, okay? Telur yang dikeluarkan daripada ovary kucing tu memang boleh fertilize with the sperm and they can form a kitten. But physically, they are not up to the standard size yet. Precisely to the tulang pinggang diorang, the pelvis, okay? The size of the pelvic canal, okay, we call it the inlet of the pelvis, is still very narrow. So untuk anak kucing keluar daripada lubang pelvis tu, it's going to be difficult, okay? And this is even more severe or even worse if it's actually during the first time the cat is actually ovulating. Some cats get pregnant very young. I've seen in practice last time 4 or 5 months they're already pregnant. It is quite scary, yeah, but it can happen. So, but what happens is when a cat ovulates at a very young age, the number of oocytes that the ovary releases is actually very low. Telur yang subur dikeluarkan tu kurang sikit. So what happens at the end of the day, bilangan anak kucing pun tak berapa banyak. They are less. Okay, like in this cat, it was only 2 kittens. So when you have 2 kittens and the mother, the queen, is eating as usual, what happens? The kittens are going to be very big because there is less competition. Sebab ada 2 ekor anak kucing saja kan, tapi nutrisi daripada emak tu consider banyak lah. They don't have to share with many kittens. So the kittens are going to end up getting bigger. So it makes the situation worse. Already the pelvic canal is small, now you're going to have bigger kittens. Okay, so mainly the skull, okay, the size of the tengkorak kucing tu is going to be really big. That is going to be finding it quite difficult for it to pass through the pelvic canal. Okay, so these are the concerns that we have. So again, what I want to highlight here is puberty is as easy as just releasing the ova or even for males untuk keluarkan sperma tersebut. Tapi tak semestinya rangka badan tu sesuai untuk pembiakan yang sehat. Okay, so and that one is actually sexual maturity. Sexual maturity is puberty plus physically they are able to sustain and deliver a healthy offspring without any concern. Okay, with minimal risk of any complication. So these 2 things are completely different, which I want to highlight. So what is the ideal time? Some of you all have already shared with me in the chat. It makes quite good sense, which is most cats, 12 months is where you go about it. Okay, which is about 1 year. Because beyond that, they're not going to grow physically. Rangka badan diorang tak akan besar lagi selepas setahun. Except in certain breeds, like we have large or giant breeds in cats, like for example, Maine Coon. So for Maine Coons, I will definitely wait off at least about 16 or 18 months of age because they will actually take longer time untuk reach the size. Rangka badan diorang akan besar lagi perlahan daripada kucing yang biasa. So So they need more time to get older. Okay, but to be honest with all of you, dystocia, which is actually the difficulty to give birth, which this cat had, is actually quite rare in cats. Lagi very very common in dogs. In dogs, almost 15% anjing yang memberanak, they have this issue. But in cats, it's actually very low. It's below 0.5% only. But when it happens, it can be really, really bad. And most of the time, it happens because when cats they get impregnated and they are very young. Okay. So now let's move on to the next thing, which is still related to age as well. So I've got a senior cat here. This case, a 9-year-old cat came in and it's not spayed, obviously it's a pregnant cat. But this was a stray cat actually. So the owners, let it manage outdoors. And what was the problem? Had difficulties to give birth. Again, the same thing. So they did try medical management, but it failed. So what they did, they went in and did an en bloc OHE. OHE, the full name is ovarian hysterectomy, which is the neutering process untuk mengeluarkan rahim and ovaries sekali daripada kucing tu. But en bloc meaning kita keluarkan the entire rahim dengan ovary itu sekali, and then the minute dia dah dikeluarkan, we cut open and remove the kittens so that we can save the kittens as soon as possible lah. So it is like a C-section, but C-section we will preserve the uterus. In this case, we did not want to preserve it. Okay, the owner decided otherwise. So what is the key element here? Of course, the age. He's a much senior cat, 9 years old. But I want to highlight here, kucing dirang tak pergi menopause. They won't go to a stage of menopause. Like in humans, that happens. But in cats, throughout their life, they would still be releasing eggs. They will still come on heat. They will come on cycle. Maybe the number of eggs will reduce because even humans or even cats, when we are born, we are already born with a set number for females lah. Okay, bilangan ova yang dah ada dalam ovary kita memang is already fixed. Okay, so it's in our lifetime we will be releasing this respective eggs. So for cats, most of the time sampai very old age also diorang akan keluarkan ova. Just that bilangan dia akan mula berkurangan. But the thing is that even if they are older, they can still get pregnant. Okay. So when you look at the case, why was she at risk here? First thing again, she's older. But what happens is, although she can keluarkan ova ni, what happens? Her uterine contraction reduces. Rahim dia nak meneran tu, the process of her able to do that reduces because she's a lot weaker as she's not a younger kid already. So this one, when she needs to give birth, dia tak boleh nak teran sangat untuk keluarkan anak kucing tersebut. So the uterus is a lot more weaker. Okay. Now the next thing is the other risk for a cat. For example, in pregnancy is a very very stressful episode for a cat. Okay, this happens untuk manusia juga because the amount of stress that is subject to the body is very very high, and this is quite unhealthy, especially untuk kucing yang dah sudah umur and older cat or kucing yang sudah tua. Now why I mean this is, if you look at this chart, some of you all may have seen this in my previous sharings before. This is pertaining the body weight of kucing dari start membiak, when they are mated from the time they came on heat until they got pregnant. Gestation is the pregnancy period, then they deliver, and then the lactation. So the red line, garis yang merah tu, is pertaining to the weight of the cat. Okay, so if you see, bila diorang dah memberanak tu, when they dah membiak, after they mated, their body weight will increase, and they have to be increasing. Okay, this is a normal phenomena, and that's why they will need high energy food. But the minute after they deliver, you see how fast their body weight starts dropping, and dia mula turun bawah garisan kosong tu, which means they will drop their body weight until they are underweight actually, almost 80% saja daripada berat badan yang ideal. And when a cat loses body weight as such, it is very stressful to the body. Memang banyak damage, stressful damage to the body, but this is a normal phenomenon. But if it's a healthy adult, risiko dia kurang lah. Tapi untuk kucing yang dah tua, the damage to the body, the stress damage is actually very high. And this can cause so many other consequences. Organ-organ yang lain akan mula cepat deteriorate. Akan mula tak berkesan sangat, and it's going to go down, and the cat will get other diseases much faster. Okay, so that is why you need to find an ideal age, not too early, not too late. And in our case, we are normally recommending between 1 year, okay, for the average size cats, to about 6 to 7 years of age. After that, it's highly recommended to retire them already. Okay, so let's move on. All right. So the next thing is knowing. Okay, let's go on to the next question here. For males, okay, we spoke about females. So when do you start breeding males? They can also get sexually matured, as in like at a different rate as compared to coming into puberty. Okay, it's different also similarly. So the answer is also again quite similar. We don't want it to be too early, or we don't want it to be too late either. So because why? A male at about 8 months, at about 6, 7, 8 months, they can already produce semen, which actually has the sperm in it, sperma dalam semen. Okay, so but what happens? The quality is not going to be as good as a sexually matured adult. They will be less in number, and also sperma yang dah sedia ada tu, they will have less motility, which means they will not be as active as a good quality sperm. They won't be able to swim very far. They won't be able to stay alive for a long period of time. That is one. And on top of that, untuk kucing jantan yang muda, they also don't have a very good behavior, poor ability to demonstrate the breeding behavior. They're very submissive. They're not very dominant. And you need the dominant characteristics in a lot of males, for the breeding to be successful, for the mating process to be successful. So they tend to be a lot more submissive, and most of the time the females might end up bullying them, and this can lead to a lot of failure in mating. So best advice is again at least about 1 year of age. Okay, but again similarly, some breeds will mature a lot later in life. Okay, but you see, when it comes to older males, quite similar in cats, they are still also able to produce sperm at old age, and even without concern of sperm count and sperm motility. Dia tak terbantuk untuk kucing yang tua, dia punya bilangan sperma dengan motility sperma is still okay. But what happens in older age, the behavior also starts changing. Usually even in the wild, untuk kucing jantan pun, as they get older, younger cats start being more dominant and they may start taking over. So they naturally tend to use the dominance behavior here. So they would not, although they can produce good quality sperms, they would not successfully be able to complete the mating process. But do we have a clear-cut guideline on how long to, is it 7 years, is it 8 years? We leave it case-by-case basis. As long as the individual is not stressed so much and he can impregnate a female. I've seen 10, 11, 12 years old, so they are still doing it without any welfare concerns. Okay, the cat is not being forced or not being bullied. He's doing it at ease. Then there is no concern. So it's case-to-case basis. As a breeder, you should be able to figure it out. Okay. Now the next thing is looking into how can your vet, it's always advised as professional breeders, you have a working veterinarian with, because these two professionals, I think, are very closely integrated. Diorang memang saling dependent on each other in many situations, in a good way actually. And it's good to have one vet that you're following up, so they understand your breeding practice, they understand your cattery, how is it managed from the beginning. So what are the things you should be regularly doing with your vet? Let's look at it. First thing, you're talking about physical examination. Yes, it is quite obvious. You go to the vet is going to check, but you're going to check other things more specific daripada bawa kucing atau anjing dari peliharaan anda untuk pergi check kat doktor veteriner. Because untuk kucing yang aktif dalam pembiakan, you need to check more than the regular things. And how often you do it? Best at least once or twice a year. So and before we go into the specific things for kucing yang digunakan untuk pembiakan, we need to talk about preventive healthcare. These are practices yang untuk kurangkan kucing dapat penyakit-penyakit yang boleh senang berjangkit. So you're talking about all the viral diseases, parasitic, cacing perut, external parasite like kutu, pinjal, all of these things are also to be done and checked, because this can affect your your herd quality. Okay, when you talk about as a population, in let's say you have a cattery of 10 cats, it can affect the quality of all your 10 cats at once, no matter whether they are the active breeding ones, whether it's a stud or is it a kitten, the quality can be affected. Now, this is something very, very important. It is always, always, always advisable to screen for very important diseases, especially FELV and FIV. I'm sure you all might have heard of this. This is feline leukemia and also feline immune deficiency virus, which is some sort macam HIV in cats here. HIV is human immune deficiency virus, yang menyebabkan penyakit AIDS ya. In cats, it's feline immune deficiency virus yang menyebabkan penyakit FIV lah, which is feline immune deficiency virus disease. So, because dua-dua penyakit ni dia memang akan bantutkan immune system kucing, okay, sistem immune kucing. And the worst part is this is transmissible by breeding. Okay, mothers can pass it down to kittens. During mating, FIV can transmit any bodily fluid. Okay, cecair badan, it can be the semen, it can be air leo, air kencing. When in contact, it can transmit FIV. FELV always usually by blood or mungkin melalui penyusuan kucing. When the cats are suckling, they can transmit FELV. And these are non-curable disease. So you need to make sure your breeding cat has been screened. Kalau diorang ada penyakit ni, you shouldn't be using them for breeding. Okay. This is the one that is more specific. External reproduction organ examination. This is more specific untuk kucing yang guna untuk pembiakan. You need to examine the penis, the testis, the vulva, the mammary gland. Because there are some conditions you can catch it early. For example, the testis. I'm sure you all have heard of the condition called cryptorchid ataupun monokid, di mana the testis tu dia it fails to descend into the scrotum. Scrotum tu is yang kulit yang simpan the testicles ya. And you see the testicle, dia sepatutnya mesti ada kat luar badan. Okay, it needs to be at the external area, as in like dia tak masuk dalam abdomen. Like the ovaries untuk betina is in the abdomen, am I right? But for humans or mammals, the testicle has to be outside. Why? Because untuk production sperma, you need a temperature yang kurang daripada suhu badan. Kalau the testicle is dalam badan, dia akan sama dengan suhu badan, which is about 37 to 37.4 to 37 around that category. That can be not good for sperm production. That is why it needs to be outside where it's a bit cooler. So you might see actually cats that have cryptorchid, mana the testicle is stuck inside due to some conditions when they are born in that way. Yeah, they can still actually reproduce. But what happens? The quality is actually very poor because the sperm production or the count is very low, and it can affect the successfulness of breeding. But most importantly, that is also a genetic disease. It can be passed down from cat to cat. Kucing jantan yang ada cryptorchid, you mengawan dengan kucing yang lain, the kittens may get this condition. And testicle yang terperangkap dalam abdomen tu ada risiko untuk jadi cancer very high. It's a high chance of developing into a cancerous tissue, the testicle that has been stuck inside the abdomen, okay, due to the hormonal imbalance. So then the same thing for females, you check the vulva. For vulva, untuk kucing is jarang-jarang sangat dia ada vulva discharge atau cecair-cecair yang berlendir yang keluar daripada vulva. If it is coming out, usually there is a problem. We takut any sort of infection dalam rahim dia. And sometimes this cecair ni, they can come out for few weeks or few months without harming the pet, and then at one point they fall ill. So if you do regular check and you see this, the vet will already be alerted and they can investigate more and address the problem dari awal-awal daripada when the cat comes in really sick. Okay. Now, one more thing is actually checking the penis. Okay, checking the zakar kucing jantan. Okay. Now, if you see, I'm not sure if you have seen it or not. This is how a male's penis will look like if you have already removed it daripada the sac or the prepuce we call it. Okay, the sarung kulit tersebut. And if you look closer, dia ada macam very fine needle-like substance. Okay, we call it the penile spine. Now, this is also very good because this penile spine is a reflection of testosterone production. Testosterone is actually the hormone produced by male cats. So, kalau the cat has got a good level of testosterone production, this spine ni, this duri-duri ni, dia akan well built, dia akan nampak cantik, it will be complete. If this duri-duri ni dia tak berapa panjang, or it is like macam, is scarce, it is not as many as what you see in this photo, that can actually give you a heads up. Hey, this cat, the testosterone level may not be up to standard. And of course, it's not confirmatory, but from here onwards, you can do more investigation. You can do a blood testosterone check and etc. So this is how doing a physical examination helps. Okay. So what else we have? Checking for the oral cavity. Why you want to check the oral cavity? Kenapa nak check mulut kucing, especially untuk kucing yang guna untuk pembiakan? Okay. If you see here, in males especially untuk kucing jantan, because why? Kucing jantan bila dia tengah mengawan, they will need to grip the females. Okay. And this is a normal process. It happens in all cats, and it's a reflex where when the cat bites the female's neck, the female will actually just let go. It's a normal reflex. Even vets also use this technique in the clinic to examine. Sometimes we use a clip or what. We just pinch at the back of the neck. Kucing tu memang takkan bergerak. Dia akan just duduk diam saja. So that's what happens in the natural process as well. When it's mating, the male has to have a good grip. If he cannot grip, the female won't keep still and he cannot successfully ejaculate. So if he has got gingivitis, gusi diorang merah-merah and it is inflamed, there's infection, he cannot grip properly. He won't be able to grip, he won't be able to successfully ejaculate. There is a failure in mating. So that is one of the reasons why for males especially, you need to make sure you have got good dental health. Okay. Now, few more things. For cats, you need to constantly check the mammary gland. So you see this condition here is quite scary. You nampak the entire mammary gland tissue is memang besar, is so huge, it's like a growth, it's like a tumor. But it is not a tumor actually. The nama kondisi ini is very specific. Fibroadenomatosis. It's basically a condition of di mana the mammary gland, okay, it actually reacts due to a specific hormone, which is progesterone. Progesterone is a normal hormone yang akan mula menaik selepas kucing is consider after ovulation lah. Selepas usai dah keluarkan daripada ovary, kucing akan masuk into the phase of progesterone. So, but sometimes kucing akan ada excessive amount of progesterone, and this is what happens in the situation. So, regularly checking the cat's mammary gland to see abnormal variations in the size of the mammary gland is good, and you can address it. Sekarang, at this point of time, we are getting treatments available, and you can still use this cat to breed in the future. Those days, we will only opt to neuter it. We will say, okay, this kucing tak boleh guna untuk mengawan sudah. We have to neuter it already. But now, not very available in Malaysia, but soon we should have all those drugs available to treat these conditions. Okay. So now let's move on to the next thing is body condition score, which is checking whether your cat dalam kondisi yang ideal tak. It cannot be too thin, it cannot be too fat, or it cannot be too overweight or obese. Why am I saying this? One is because, of course, if they are bigger and heavier, they'll have difficulties to untuk keluarkan anak kucing untuk successfully deliver the kittens during paturation bila diorang tengah nak beranak. That one we all are quite aware when there's too much excessive amount of fat. But the other thing we all have to remember is fat cells, okay, cell lemak actually is a very good endocrine tissue. What I mean by endocrine tissue is tissue yang boleh keluarkan hormone, and fat cell is an endocrine tissue. So when your body ada banyak kandungan lemak, it will actually disrupt the normal hormone cycle of a cat, and this happens in humans too. You will notice women, right? You have this condition called polycystic ovarian syndrome, okay, PCOS, and this condition is very highly associated to overweight. Banyak orang yang berat badan diorang lebih daripada ideal, okay, ladies ya, they tend to get this condition of polycystic ovarian syndrome, where the ovary ni, diorang tidak keluarkan usai, dia tak keluarkan telur yang subur. They will just help replicate, dia akan membesar, tapi dia tak akan keluarkan usai ni. And we have similar findings in cats, where ovulation is disrupted in obese and overweight cats. So you need to make sure kucing dalam ideal body weight, and your vet should be able to help you with this. Okay, now on top of that, you will do regular blood check and blood count. Okay, you will do liver, kidney function, but this is all your regular routine check, and this is ongoing also, especially bila kucing tengah menua as they're getting older. Like, you need to do this regular checking to make sure they don't have any other condition. And this is one more important tool. which is imaging diagnostic. So imaging ni is out of physical examination, ya. Yang lain-lain ni is more of physical examination, and of course blood test is blood test lah, kita ambil darah. Tapi body condition score and physical examination yang apa yang kita boleh nampak dari luaran saja, by looking with your eyes and touch and feel. But diagnostic imaging is more of an internal examination, but using certain device lah, certain tool. In this case is ultrasound. Ultrasound is not considered a physical examination, but it's a good tool to check dalam rahim kucing tu. Is there any mucometra? Mucometra ni is kumpulan air dalam rahim kucing. Okay, ada cyst dalam ovary dia tu. So some cats, walaupun dia orang ada masalah-masalah ni, they don't have any symptom and they still boleh keluarkan, they can still successfully make and give out kittens. But what happens, the problem comes later down the road. So the idea here is when you do routine check, kalau dah nampak benda-benda ni, you can already address it from the very beginning. Okay? So basically this was sums up the thing you do with your vet. Like it's one slide but very comprehensively I covered hopefully. So now let's move on to the next part here, which is environment, persekitaran kucing ni. We should never overlook the environment of your breeding cats. Okay? There is this saying lah, ada this say, it says that cats thrive on familiarity and also routine. So maksudnya if dalam persekitaran diorangnya is the same routine, dia tak tukar the where you keep your food, where you keep the litter box, and the kucing yang ada dalam cattery tu, and also the people that is handling the food that you're using. Kalau if it's in the same routine, dia tak bertukar, cats love it. Okay, they and also they thrive, which means diorang boleh lagi cepat membiak in a healthy manner. Okay, kalau ada banyak perubahan, they will tend to reserve themselves. They won't be actively involving in mating. Okay, so and also another important thing is if your environment is on ada manipulasi, ada changes, it can increase the risk of many other penyakit, especially penyakit berjangkit, increases the risk of infectious disease and also inflammatory disease. So inflammatory disease are penyakit-penyakit yang just involving a lot of inflammation, where the body has got a lot of fighting mechanism, response untuk asyik nak melawan saja. Okay, so this is your antibody and antigen response. So ada banyak penyakit macam contohnya penyakit lower urinary tract disease. We call it FIC, feline idiopathic cystitis. Penyakit ni is a lot associated to environmental changes atau stress yang tengah berlaku di persekitaran. Okay, so another case here I want to share with you all. So this cat, her name is Bella. Okay, she was a 2-year-old Persian. Okay, so this Bella was disimpan dengan in a cattery with banyak ada kucing, with several other cats. All right, and so what is the problem? For 2 years, all right, the owner has been checking. She never came on heat. She never showed interest to mate. When they introduced male with her, she just shied away. She walked away, and so she never got pregnant. And what is the key things they noted here? Bella, she always been a target in the group. Okay, which means kucing-kucing lain senang or selalu membuli dia. Okay, and it's always attacking this cat, and so Bella chooses to always hide herself. She's always in hiding. So what we can deduce from here is she's always exposed to a high level of stress, but she's still eating normal. In fact, with the owner, she's still playful. She comes to the breeder owner, she comes and plays, she spends good time with them, but she's not thin or she's not underweight. She doesn't have any other illness, tak ada penyakit symptoms in the penyakit yang lain. Just that we know she is very stressed because of the behavior of other cats. So what happens in stress? Stress akan meningkatkan hormone cortisol. Okay, cortisol is a stress-induced hormone. Even in humans, you have this. Okay, and cortisol is the one that causes many other damages in the body. In the case of reproduction, it actually akan inhibit the pathway. So basically, the whole reproductive system dalam system in conjunction with the hormone, right? It starts with the brain. There are certain hormones triggered in the brain from the hypothalamus, then it goes to the pituitary gland, and from there it eventually comes down to the reproductive organs. But cortisol will inhibit the hypothalamus trigger untuk keluarkan hormon untuk activate the pituitary gland. So kalau dari awal-awal dia dah sudah inhibit, which means dia terbantukkan keluaran hormon ni, this can disrupt the normal hormonal cycle of the cat. So eventually dia akan kurangkan kadar-kadar untuk ovulate. In Bella's case, dia tak keluarkan at all. There's no ovulation. So very low chance of eventually mating and also fertilization. So what did they do? What was the treatment address for Bella? Very simple. They just moved her out. Okay, they took her out from this cattery. They introduced her to another cattery, a friend's cattery. So good news is the other cats there took her in very well. And within 6 months, she got pregnant, introduced with another male there. So the environment really plays a very important role, and you can see a significant change in a very short period of time. Okay, so the key message here is making sure we manage cats in a stress-free environment. That is very, very important. Okay, and do we have a rule yang berapa banyak ekor kucing yang perlu dijaga dalam satu bilik tu? Is it too much of cats? That's why there is a problem. Actually, there's no clear guideline rule because it depends on your room size also. If your room is big, you can have more cats. You really have to gauge the individuals respond to how they respond to that cat. Sometimes the room can be really big, ada 2 ekor kucing saja, but they can't get along. So you really have to see case by case untuk manage this kind of condition. Okay, let's move on to the next thing here. What else you can actually have changes or effect from the environment? Okay, the use of pheromones. I'm not sure if you all heard of the term, pheromones. Pheromones are basically chemicals that are secreted by the body in terms of fluids. Okay, dia ada cecair-cecair yang dikeluarkan daripada badan, and more in animals actually. In animals, especially anjing, kucing, they use this to communicate, to send messages around to their neighbors or to their surrounding. Alright, so in cats, you will have noticed kucing-kucing sering buat perlakuan ni. They will rub their face, okay, especially their cheek, on surfaces, and you see them doing this on humans also. Dia akan gosok-gosok badan dia orang, kaki, your hand when you pet them. You see them doing this constantly. Why are they doing this actually? They are basically transferring this pheromone. Pheromone ni akan keluar daripada banyak-banyak gland around this area. So as they do that, they will transmit all this pheromone to the environment, and so they can constantly smell this pheromone, and that will make them feel lagi senang. They feel it more comfortable, more assuring. It's what we call an appeasing effect, and this is what normally cats do. And this, when it is produced synthetically, when it's artificially created, mimicking the same smell, you can achieve the same result. So we have products now. Okay, like one of it is called Feliway. Some of you may have seen or known about it. Basically, this product, it is like in a diffuser or in a spray form. So you put it in your house environment. It can actually reduce all of this thing. It can reduce unwanted spraying, unwanted scratching, shying and hiding away. So usually spraying and unwanted scratching is normally not a big concern for breeders like all of you. But when it comes to shying and hiding away, and then aggression behavior from being a very dominant cat, because some females, they just don't allow other males to mate them, although they are on heat. They show signs on heat, but when introduced by the male, they don't like it. This could be addressed possibly with pheromone therapies like this. Bukan guarantee akan berkesan, but this can be given a try because it has been proven. Okay. So now let's move on to the next thing here, which is managing your stud, because there is a problem in managing your male cats alone. They themselves have got their own conditions or their own concerns. But again, dia bergantung pada individu. Other breeders, they have no issues. Other breeders, it's really a big headache. Okay, so what is the challenge here? Actually, in Europe and Americas, it's quite common that many breeders, especially first-time breeders yang baru nak start in this profession, they normally don't recommend them to keep male cats. They don't recommend to keep their own studs. They recommend to use others, loan or use stud services. So may I just know, how is it for you, for all of you? Okay, is it the same in your situation? So normally these are the challenges for managing males. Again, yes, they can be very actively spraying here and there. They are urinating here and there. Sering bergaduh. And sometimes it's difficult to prevent them from breeding if they live with other females. So for example, you don't want that male to mate with this female. Maybe you are planning, this female came on heat, you are planning her to be mated with another male, but this guy doesn't want it. He wants to go and mate at the same time. He's not following your breeding pattern. So let's do a poll, shall we? I want to know basically how is the practice in your place? So basically, what is the current stud management practice in your category? Do you don't own a stud, which means you don't keep any males, breeding males. He's in a foster home. Ada yang you get your friend's cat and then you come and bring it for mating, or you keep your cat at your friend's place, or you keep it among your breeding females, or you keep him isolated. Okay. So again, similar to what I shared before, there is really no proper right or wrong here. How you decide it is really depending on these three parameters. These three parameters are the reason how you would like to manage your stud. In terms of sight, whether your stud can be seen, boleh nampak, okay, or sound, boleh didengar tak, or whether your stud can be smelled or not. And so it's not only of your stud, whether the females there can also see, smell, and also hear your stud or not. So why is this so? So one thing, remember the pheromones earlier. So in females can actually be stimulated by males that are around. Okay, we call it the male effect. Of course, untuk stimulasi kucing betina untuk come on heat, untuk keluarkan ova tu banyak ada faktor. Like I said, nutrition, light, and breed, and behavior. But sometimes even the males can trigger it. Kalau ada kucing jantan in that area, the pheromone, the smell, although they cannot see, although they may not be able to hear it, they may be able to get the effect from the male, and that can trigger ovulation actually. Okay, so if let's say you don't want this trigger, so sometimes you don't want unwanted trigger of ovulation because of the males, then you should avoid this practice, which means you should not keep the males at the same place, very far away, so they don't even have the smell of this pheromone. Okay, but if let's say you would like to benefit from this, for example, you would like a queen to start the season, you want to tolong startkan kucing betina tu untuk come into heat. So then what you should do, you should introduce to a male that they have never been in contact. Why? Because the pheromone must be a new pheromone. It's a new smell that can possibly trigger this cycle. So if you have a female cat that you are finding it troublesome to get her to come on heat, again, ada banyak faktor. This is one thing you can try. You can probably loan one of your friends' stud, introduce. You don't mate him. Maybe you don't want to use that male, but you may just want to use the pheromone. You can possibly have some effect from this. Okay. So the next thing is males can also be triggered by a female. Okay, because sometimes usually there's no problem with males. As long as there's an active female, they will normally go and mount and they will be interested to mate already. But sometimes, some very rare situations, it can happen. Even the males may not be interested. So similarly, you can use a female, an active female, to trigger the male. Okay, but again, there are downsides to it. That's why some of them choose to separate it. Because if there's an active female in your category, but you don't want to use this male to mate, so what happens? This jantan ni dia akan sangat hyperactive because he can smell, he can know there's another female there. This can cause him to lose weight actually because he's not going to be focusing on food, or he's going to be jumping here, jumping there, trying to get access to the female. So they can burn a lot of calories. He can lose weight, lose body condition, which is not healthy. Another thing is poor coat quality. It is quite common whenever a female cat also, or even a male, when they're sexually very active, the body's hormonal changes will cause less benefits to the fur. So the fur will be more dry, tak berkilat sangat, more dull looking. And so if you're using this cat for show purposes and all, it's going to be a concern. So that is one of the reasons why some of them may not choose to keep it together with the breeding cats or the breeding female if he's not going to use them for breeding. Okay, so if you have no plans of mating in that situation and you're afraid of all of this, then baik kita asingkan dia lah, keep him away. Okay, so now let's look at bringing a male and female here. Like I mentioned this now, cats thrive on a routine and familiarity. So asalkan dia tak banyak perubahan, they are more happy to proliferate, more happy to mate. Okay, and the idea is to make sure that they are in a very comfortable state. And this one banyak bergantung pada not bergantung, banyak effect kepada kucing jantan. Okay, we want to make sure that the male has got no fear of new territory and no other males around it. So why? Because this can cause stress. And like I told you just now, I showed example is female. Kalau stress tinggi, cortisol tinggi, dia akan bantukan hypothalamus untuk secrete necessary glucocorticoids, which will bantukan ovulation, right? The same thing also happens in males. It can actually reduce the sperm quality and reduce the sexual behavior, the libido, you know, how much he wants to mate with the female. So for a male, we always want to make sure he is in his same territory. He's not around other new non-introduced males to him, okay, to make sure that he's still a dominant one. So always recommend bringing the female to the male, okay, so that it's not going to be too stressful for the male. Usually females, they don't have a major or big concern in this, okay. So now let's move on to one of the last part of this sharing, which is more in specific to infertility, okay, ketidaksuburan lah, okay. So I just see, I've got a question coming in. Okay, I'll keep it for later, but a good question. So infertility, what is the most common cause of infertility in cats? So the question here is, let's say ada banyak faktor yang menyebabkan ketidaksuburan dalam kucing, and here are the options: uterine disease, nutrition, absence of breeding, okay, maknanya tak ada pembiakan, there's no mating, and also infectious disease, penyakit yang berjangkit. Okay, uterine disease is penyakit dalam rahim kucing tu. So what is the answer here? So the next question, right? I'm going to bring out the next poll. So you should see it now in front of you. What is the most common cause of infertility in cats? I want to see your options. Okay, I've got answers coming in. Okay, for this one, I have to tell you there is a correct answer. Yeah, it's not dependent on situasi atau environment atau baka ke apa. This one really there is a correct answer. So please share it with me. Okay, I think almost all of you have already answered. Okay, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to share. So if you see here, majority of y'all actually chose uterine disease for 50%. Then some towards absence of breeding, nutrition a bit, and infectious disease. So one is maybe yes, the audience that I'm talking to now, memang you all have seen a lot of uterine disease. Or maybe we do not know, maybe it's another answer, but you feel it's a uterine disease. But what I want to share with you, what information I have, or in terms of scientific knowledge or evidence we have, actually absence of breeding is the #1 cause of infertility in cats. Maksudnya dia memang tak membiak, as in like didn't mate successfully. The key thing is whether they mate successfully. You might have seen them attempting to mate. Mungkin you saw them, mounting each other. And it might have seen all of the behavioral features, but was it successful or not? That is still always a question to ask. So let's look at this. One challenge of absence of breeding. Okay, what are the normal challenges yang menyebabkan a cat to not be able to breed or make sure it's successful mating? So the question is, did the female actually come on heat? Did she come on heat or not? Did she come on the season or not? Most of the time, there is no issues. We can obviously see it, okay? But some cats actually have got very discreet or no obvious signs. Tak ada symptom-symptom yang ketara untuk menunjukkan, yes, the cat is on heat, okay? And one of the breeds is actually Persians. Persians have got a very subtle signs of heat. Some of these Persians actually. So you might actually miss the window, the opportunity untuk membiak dalam masa yang spesifik tu, you akan terlepas, okay? So another thing is can be another extreme. Ada kucing yang memang on the other end, oh my god, when they come on heat, it's like excessive, it's quite severe, And one example breed is actually Siamese. When these guys come on heat, they do not what I call that, they don't it's very aggressive in the sense that they are so vocal, so loud. It's like it really drives the owner crazy. So it really depends on the breed. So if you have some breeds, you need to pay more close attention to it. So how can you actually improve the detection of heat? Okay, whether this cat is actually on heat. Say you have a Persian and you know that this guy is so difficult to find out whether he's on heat, you can actually use a male. A male can be a good means to detect whether the cat is on heat or not. So he will show signs of interest probably even before diorang menunjukkan tanda-tanda on heat. So si jantan might be able to figure that out, because remember the pheromone. And why? Because there is a phase called pro-estrus. Pro-estrus ni sebelum estrus. Estrus is bila diorang dah keluarkan ova. So pro-estrus ni sebelum ova ni dikeluarkan. Okay. So dalam anjing, this pro-estrus phase is actually quite long. Okay. Tapi untuk kucing, most of the time is sangat pendek. It's a very short period. But ada kucing yang they have a few days di mana tak ada tanda-tanda untuk on heat, but kucing jantan dia boleh pick up. He can catch this. Okay. So if you have trouble in finding out if your cat is on heat or not, you can use a male. But do remember, pro-estrus, like I said, in cats is very, very short. So if you say, okay, saya nak guna jantan ni untuk check saja whether this female is on heat or not, you have to be careful. Because if you use him to check, but he accidentally mated and you don't want him to be mating the cat, then you might accidentally cause him to be pregnant. Why? Because memang dia tak boleh impregnate the cat dalam pro-estrus. Tapi because pro-estrus is very short, it can be like half a day. So sometimes, bila kucing tu, when the male identify the cat is on heat, it was in pro-estrus. But before you can separate, or he would have attempted to mate, masa tu dah sudah masuk estrus, and it could already be pregnant. So you have to be careful in that. Okay? What other things you can do? Now, this one, I'm actually even not so sure whether it's readily available in the sense that all of you have access to this. Basically, we do vaginal smears, okay? So, you take swabs of the vagina of the kucing tu, you put on a slide and you visualize it. Now, traditionally, most like high-level professions only do this because you need a microscope, ada teknik yang you kena buat untuk stain the slide tersebut tu supaya ada warna, and oftentimes doktor veteriner yang buat ni. And what you visualize is you nampak sel yang spesifik. Dia akan, we call it conified cell. Sel-sel dia akan nampak besar, very angular looking, macam segi empat. And so ini menunjukkan kucing tu dalam estrus, okay? So in order to know when exactly estrus comes, you do regular checking lah. Mungkin every seminggu atau 2 minggu sekali to see whether the cat has come on heat or not. So I do know a few vets in doing this for dogs actively, but the technique is still the same for cats. But the thing about this is, again, like dogs too, kena visit regularly lah to the vet because they have the equipments available. But for cats, it's not going to be that easy. It's going to be very stressful. Normally, dogs, there's not much of a concern. Usually, breeding dogs are very well handled and they're very used to the vet. But cats, depending, okay? So this is the catch that, you have to regularly visit unless you have the equipment by yourself on your own. Because in overseas, many professional breeders, they learn the technique themselves. They buy the device, the microscope themselves, especially when they don't want to miss the heat cycle. Okay, but I'm just putting it out. This is one option for you. Okay, so that is how to detect for the ones yang tak ketara sangat. Now let's look into the actual breeding challenge. Okay, so first thing is you need to observe. This is very, very important. When a cat is breeding, you need to pay attention, and that will tell you whether was it successful or not. How? The post-coital reaction, which means just after ejaculations, just after he has successfully implanted the sperm into the female, macam mana perlakuan kucing tersebut, okay? That will tell you whether it is successful or not, okay? So first thing is, the minute the male has already finished ejaculating and let go of the female's neck, dia dah tak menggigit lagi, the female would actually give a very loud meow and shout, and she would try to attack the male. Okay, so the first picture you see is actually the female, which is on the left. She just actually attempted to attack the male, tapi the jantan is a very experienced male. He immediately ran away, okay? So this is actually a good tip to say that yes, it is successful. The next thing is the cat will also start rolling on the back. This is also quite commonly seen, the female, okay? Sorry, the female is on the right, yeah, the male is on the left, all right? Confused. Now the next thing is the female will start probably licking her vulva because she knows there is some fluid being secreted into her back. She can feel it. And cats are normally very fussy and clean animals. You know, they like to clean themselves. They don't like any cicai badan yang terkeluar, yang melelende on themselves. So she will actually lick her vulva. So normally with all of this in place, there's a high chance the mating has gone through successfully, as in like ejaculation is successful. If you happen to not see this, then I would start be worrying or concerning about, hey, did this happen or not? Okay. And like I mentioned, an experienced male, the one on the top left, the lighter, the orange colored one, he should be able to move away quickly. And this is something also you should observe, not so much for the female, to see the successful rate of this male mating in the future. Okay, because if he actually memang dah kena betul dengan female ni, she got hit and hard, got whacked, especially in the first mating, then his chances of successfully mating in the future is going to be lower because why? He already traumatized. So that's why you need to make sure you are able to prevent this in some way, or you should be able to know, okay, this guy is an experienced guy, so the next time I don't need to be so worried about it because he knows when to move away. Okay. So that is the post-coital, what to check. Now, when it comes to choosing the breeding partner, okay, this is quite common, all of us probably know, especially when you're talking about a first timer. So, contoh you are a kucing betina, the first time you are trying to get her to mate. So, I have an experienced male and an inexperienced female. So, normally this will be my option. I will always pair an experienced pair to an inexperienced one, so that the inexperienced female ni yang tak ada experience sebelum ni, she would be easily adapting to the process. Okay, but before you start the mating, we recommend you introduce to the partner first for a few days, for about 15 minutes each day. Don't put them in the same cage or in the same place first. Maybe you can do that with supervision, ataupun letak dalam sangkar yang bersebelahan. Why? You want the cat to familiarize with the smell, the pheromones, the sight, the smell and all that. Get him used to it first before you start mating. Why? Because if say you introduce it, they will mate, but the experience for the female will be very traumatizing. So the next time she would think twice to be mating the male. Not only this male, any male also. Okay, so we want her to be used to getting that partner. So this is very important for now and also for the future breeding career of that individual. So the same thing when it comes to an inexperienced male and an experienced female. That's how you should pair it, okay? And you get them to smell and know each other first. If not, the chances of the female rejecting the male is very high. She might get very aggressive, and that can be very traumatizing to the male. Then lagi lah kurang chance untuk this jantan to be having a successful breeding career in the future. Okay. So there's one syndrome is called old couple syndrome. Okay, and it has been described. Quite jarang ya, tapi it has been described. So basically, two actively and healthy cats, male and female, but they have been kept together for long. Dah lama diorang ni dah berduaan, okay, and slowly over time they actually lose interest in each other, especially the male. This does happen, yeah, and they're just not interested at all. Like she comes on it, but he doesn't want to mate her, but he might want to mate another female. This is possible. So what can you do is actually just keep away, okay? Keep the male completely away from this female for 2 weeks. No smell, no sight, tak boleh berbau, tak boleh tengok dia, tak boleh dengar dia. Keep it away, and then reintroduce back again. There is a chance when the female comes on heat, there is a chance that she will be responsive now, because for the male it might be a new pheromone, it might be a new trigger as compared to before. Okay. And the next thing is timing of mating. All right, I think I'm almost finishing already. So basically, when do you start mating when you introduce the female to the males? Okay, let's do one last poll here. Can I bring out the question? Where is the poll? Fourth pole. Okay, I've just launched it. Okay, so basically, when do you introduce? Immediately after the female comes on heat, 2 to 3 days after the first sign of heat, dah mula tunjuk symptom heat, you introduce 2 to 3 days after. Before heat, by calculating the last cycle, or 1 week after the signs of heat. Okay, so dah dekat 80% of you all have answered this already. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to share. Okay, so a slight majority chose 2 to 3 days after the first signs of heat, but ada yang chose immediately after and also before the heat. So let me stop sharing and I will show you all what is probably the best answer here. So now this chart here menunjukkan size ovarian follicle. Okay, ovarian follicle is structure yang ada dalam ovary dalam ovary kucing yang akan keluarkan ovum, yang akan keluarkan ova tu, oocyte tu. Okay, so kalau size ovarian follicle ni lagi besar, lagi bagus quality ova yang akan keluar. So what you have here is first day of heat, second day of heat, third day of heat. Okay, if you tengok kalau the third day of heat, size ova tu, as in like size follicle tu lagi besar. And like I mentioned, the higher the follicular size, the better the quality of the ova. So this what comes to is the bigger the ovarian follicle size, the higher chance of fertilization. So the best advice is actually 2 to 3 days after the first signs of heat. Because why? That time the sperm will be fertilizing the ova that has got the best quality. Okay, it's not that if you introduce at the first day it won't happen. Boleh juga berlaku. Just that masa tu quality ova dia tak berapa bagus as compared to the third day. Okay, so so this one is more for the timing. So that is one of the advice by experts, all right, and the reason why behind it. Now let's look at the last part here, the frequency and also the duration. So I say you already know the timing now, but now berapa kerap saya nak buat ni? How often should I do this? Okay, so I'm sure all of you have heard of cats sometimes, not semua kucing they are called an induced ovulator. Okay, so basically an induced ovulator is diorang perlu they have to be mated baru akan keluarkan ova. Okay, so that is an induced ovulator. So you mate baru the eggs will come out. Okay, although they are on heat, this is what we call as induced ovulator. So pay close attention to this slide here. Okay, so what you see in this slide here, the red dot, okay, the red line is what we call as luteinizing hormone. Dia sejenis hormon. Okay, nah hormon ni dikeluarkan daripada in the brain yang akan menyebabkan ovary tu keluarkan oocyte, akan keluarkan ova tu. Okay, so untuk kucing yang not induced ovulator, bila dia dah masuk on heat, after a few days, when it comes on heat, she will already release the ova, like I showed earlier. But untuk yang induced ovulator, selagi kucing jantan tak mengawan, this luteinizing hormone ni will not be released. So kalau dia tak release, ova takkan keluar. Okay, so if you see ada macam lightning here, there's a lightning at the first lightning here. Bila dia mengawan the first time, luteinizing hormone meningkat. But the problem is dia tak meningkat cukup kepada garisan yang orange ni. Why? This orange line is the minimum amount of luteinizing hormone supaya ova tu boleh keluar. Sebab dia tak sampai ke atas, so ova pun tak keluar. Dia tak cukup lah luteinizing hormone. That is the meaning. So what happens is you need a few times of mating, then and only luteinizing hormone ni akan cukup. Then dari that point 24 jam selepas itu baru ova akan keluar for induced ovulator. Okay, so the main point of this slide is lebih daripada 50% kucing yang induced ovulator ni, first time dia mengawan tak cukup luteinizing hormone untuk keluarkan ova, which means you have to have multiple mating. Okay, baru LH tu akan cukup untuk keluarkan ova tu. Alright, so that's why the advice is when you introduce a mating, especially the first time, you need to do it at least 3 times. Okay, so let him try to mount on the female and ejaculate successfully for at least 3 times. Because why? Mungkin kali ketiga baru LH tu akan keluar and ova tu akan keluar. But what happens is fertilization won't take place because ova tu akan keluar selepas 24 jam kan? So the first day mating is more to pastikan ova tu keluar dalam 24 jam. Tapi fertilization won't take place lah. So then after that 3 days consecutively, 3 hari yang berterusan, we let him to fertilize. Okay, so masa yang 3 hari yang berterusan ni lah yang dia akan fertilize the ova. Okay, the first day is more for keluarkan ova tu, the next days is baru untuk fertilize. Okay, but the first day tu kena pastikan at least dekat 3 kali lah in that one day, so that better the LH tu akan tinggi. Okay, so basically that is what I wanted to share today. I was planning to it to be about 1 hour 15 minutes. I think we were just slightly above time. So now let's look at some questions before we go to the game. Okay, the quiz. So can I see some questions now? If we don't have enough time, don't worry, you can still submit the question. Like I said, I will come back to all of you. Okay, so one of the question is, seekor kucing jantan boleh dimatingkan dengan beberapa ekor kucing secara kerap dan tempoh kekerapan. Example, 1 jantan 3 betina perlu dicarakan 1 atau 2 atau 3 minggu sebelum ke betina yang kedua ke? I think your question here is how frequently can you mate between several females kan, antara beberapa ekor kucing. Now for me, I would say, because in this case you are going to be focusing on one pair for at least about 3 days, am I right? A minimum of 3 days with 3 consecutive trial. So I think a good 1 to 2 weeks for me personally, I think should be sufficient. But what I'm going to make it a point for all questions that I'm receiving today, untuk semua jenis soalan yang saya dapat hari ini, I am going to go and find out the right answer, because again, I am not an expert in this industry. I'm sharing the information I have in hand. But if I find out the answer is otherwise, because for me, based on my understanding of dogs, I don't think so it needs to be done, not a very long delay is required. I think 1 week is normally should be sufficient. The male should be able to produce back effective amount of sperm counts already. But I will check this back for you, okay? Beberapa ekor betina sesuai untuk ekor jantan. I think this is the same question that was asked earlier. So, adakah suhu bilik mempengaruhi jantina dalam kandungan kucing betina? Not really actually. The suhu is actually more towards, from what I know, is more towards reptiles, okay? Contohnya lizard, crocodiles and things like that. But for cats and dogs, the sex is mainly dependent on the male. Okay, the chromosome, that Y chromosome that the male gives it down to the female. So it really depends on the male whether it is his chances of giving that particular chromosome. Okay, so I don't think so temperature should be affecting, but temperature can affect the overall fertilization. You need to have a very stable temperature in your room, comfortable, stable temperature. You shouldn't want it to be fluctuating, too hot, too cold, too hot, and too cold. Okay. The question here was, can you give us a soft copy of your slide? I think I should be able to, not this one, I would be able to give you all the PDF copy. I would need to do some quick amendments. Maybe a few days after the event, I should be able to email all of you. Kucing dalam 8 bulan tapi masih muda untuk prevent dia kena pyometra, any suggestion? No, pyometra is actually a very complicated disease, okay? Memang is an infection dalam rahim. So infection tu memang jenis bacteria. But the thing is that our body ni is not so weak. So weak as in like bacteria yang senang masuk dalam rahim tu dia boleh jadi infection. Not really like that. Badan kita boleh fight. But pyometra normally happens just after ovulation. Sebab selepas ovulation akan keluar hormon progesterone. Hormon progesterone ni dia punya functionnya untuk maintain pregnancy. Okay, so dia akan simpan, maintain meaning it has to preserve anak kucing dalam rahim tu. And anak kucing actually is considered a foreign body. Maksudnya dia bukannya benda, it's not part of the mother. It is a foreign, benda luaran. So our body is programmed untuk matikan, untuk keluarkan semua benda luaran. So sepatutnya anak kucing tak boleh duduk dalam rahim cats and dogs because it's a foreign body. But what what progesterone does, it actually reduces the immunity in the rahim. That is one of the function of progesterone. Progesterone akan lemahkan immunity rahim kucing pada masa tu. So that is why after after ovulation, a cat can easily get pyometra. But at the same time, the uterus also needs to be healthy. Contoh, kucing yang sering membiak, okay, that they keep on mating because the uterine wall tu, the muscle dia mengembang dan mengecut. It doesn't have a time to rest. This can cause bacteria untuk senang duduk dalam rahim tu. So to prevent pyometra is actually a very complicated thing. One thing is, if a cat has got pyometra once, usually it's highly recommended to not continue him for use for breeding because why? It is not about the infection. Some people say, oh, it's infection, we give antibiotic, can cure. Because like I said, our body is not so weak that we cannot fight off simple infection. You know, most likely kucing tu rahim dia memang ada masalah di mana bakteria yang simple pun dia tak boleh nak keluarkan. And mungkin dia keluarkan banyak progesterone. Mungkin progesterone yang keterlaluan where it suppress the immune system. So eventually it causes very weak rahim. So there's a very difficult ways to prevent pyometra because it is more of the cat's problem than the environmental problem. So my experience, if a cat has got pyometra, and especially at very young age, then I would normally not use him for breeding because it's very risky. Okay. Now, because we are running short of time, I see there are lots of questions coming in, and I do see ada juga yang masuk question dalam Q&A, but don't worry, I'll try to get that question into the Q&A, and I'll try to come back to all of you. There's so many questions, but I'm afraid I don't have enough time to answer all of them because I want to give each of you all the chance to participate in the game. That, you know, whatever kekurangan today during the session is not a big concern, and it's not a big drawback. But if there are any, please include it in the survey so that we can only improve from here onwards. Is that okay? So with that, thank you again. Thank you for all of you to be connected with me during this time. And also, you know, most importantly, all of you all, please stay safe. Please be at home if you don't need to go out. And let us all make sure that, you know, we can overcome this in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Okay. So thank you again. Thanks everyone for your time.